Hello everyone, good evening and welcome to Roma Theory. Claudio says no to the Italian national team. Done and confirmed. Claudio stays as a senior advisor. And this is massive news for us because there's a Roma with Claudio Ranieri and there's a Roma without Claudio Ranieri. Regardless of who the manager is, you need a presence like his one inside Trigoria, creating stability and shielding potential discontents around the new manager, as we've said multiple times. This is again proves that the heart of this man is red and yellow, and that his life is Roma. Roma is his national team at the end of the day. So I'm so happy about this. I was very scared that he was going to accept, because at the end of the day, look, even if he had accepted, I'd have been disappointed, but you can't really say anything to him, It's his country calling. So it's a brave move. Saying no to your national team is a brave move. But I think it's the best move. Because I think if there's one team that can burn the career of these managers, is the national team right now. Because it's such a mess. Because the problems of the national team are institutional, no manager, maybe Claudio can because Claudio's a magician, but no manager will solve them. So going and managing Italy now will burn your career. And I think this is a wise choice, and he decides to stay because he activated this project and wants to give a sense of continuity to it. Also, Angelino, deal is not done. Did the deal collapse? Because, of course, the little FIFA Club World Cup transfer session is over. So will Al Hilal keep on pushing even after the Club World Cup, or was just this a priority to get a fullback for their Club World Cup? I don't know, but there have been a few delays on that deal as well. Look, it's right now, I think the priority right now is creating your Lego base. I think my analogy to the future season, to this coming season, is that we need to build a Lego man from scratch. And that we've got all the pieces on our table, but of course, we need instructions. Otherwise, we won't be able to build it. Right now, until I would say 2 weeks' time, until the start of July, it's about assembling the pieces, organizing these pieces on a table, and reading the instructions properly. The 10th of July, we start building. But now, you don't start building a Lego project before you've assembled all the pieces together. You've understood that the green bricks are there, that the red bricks are there, and that the yellow bricks are there. And first of all, you have a read at the instructions. Then you can start building. That's exactly what is happening right now. We're setting the base. We're planting the seeds. Had Claudio left, it was like burning the grass that we just seeded, effectively. It's like, burning it all. So I think Claudio rejecting the Italy job is because he realizes that he has been given a very centralized position. He's been given a very centralized responsibility that him leaving would not only disappoint the fans, the Fredkins, the board, and Gasperini himself, because it would have acted a bit of a betrayal, but on a practical level, him leaving would have meant prioritizing confusion ahead of order. And if there's one thing that Claudio has done very well the day he came, he set out order. He told the Fredkins, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this. Then we can start speaking. So a figure like Ranieri's one, remove him from the touchline or not, manager, no manager, you need Ranieri inside of Trigoria. Also because they're very absent, and we know this. One of the reasons as to why there isn't much technical communication between the board, the manager, and the team is because they're very absent. Because they don't spend their day at Trigoria. In fact, they barely spend their year in Rome. So you need a figure who puts stability inside that training session. We've seen the Roma players multiple times with multiple managers. if things don't go well, they will start eating the manager up like a virus. And eventually they'll sack him. But one of the reasons why that has happened multiple times and why player power got out of control is because you don't have a figure which sets out control and stability inside your training session, inside your training ground. Okay? So I think more than just what we think Ranieri will do, which is advise the owners. Maybe I think, look, Gasperini told me that he really wants that player. Maybe we should get somebody around those characteristics. Apart from having had a very big say in the manager pick, one of the biggest things that Ranieri will do is I kind of see him as the president of Trigoria. He is there to control the situation. If he feels like the situation is degenerating, and if he feels like the players aren't following the manager anymore, that's where he comes in and goes, let's sit down. Mancini, Pellegrini, if he stays, you're the captain, sit down. Do you have a problem with the manager? And that's where honesty needs to come in. So he is fundamental, and him rejecting the Italy job is something very, very important, because there's a Roma with Claudio Ranieri and there's a Roma without Claudio Ranieri. And for Gasperini's sake, him staying is very important, because he had identified Ranieri as the potential shield. Gasperini knows that initially there will be discontent. He knows this very well. It's one of the reasons he accepted, because he wants a challenge. Because he wants to go from one extreme to the other. He wants to go from hated to loved. And that's a challenge by itself. But one of the conditions that he had accepted is, I will come, but I need somebody who, works with me and kind of protects me when things don't go well. There are gonna be games that we lose. Of course there are. There are gonna be games that we lose badly. There are gonna be dark periods. Don't think that the fact that we're coming from a very long period of wins with Ranieri means that all of a sudden these players are gonna keep that streak going. Absolutely not. Dark times will come. Dark clouds will come. Thunderstorms will come again. And that is where you have to test these players. And that's where the manager will start feeling the pressure. So a figure like Ranieri is very important. Now, look, as an Italian, I actually think Ranieri was the only solution to this national team, but I could not care less. I generally couldn't care less about the national team. Important to win games, absolutely, but Roma's more important. Roma is my national team, so I would rather Ranieri stays at my club than go and manage the national team. Absolutely, no doubt. It's massively important. Do I think he was going to accept this? Well, initially, I think he had a thought about it, and you can't blame him. When the country calls, you have to at least accept the call. Then you can say, no, I'm not interested. No, I'm already busy. But you can't not accept it. You can't not think about it. So he definitely had a thought about it, and he said, no, I have a job. I have accepted this job in November. I've kept promises this season in press conferences that I will be one of the voices of the new Roma project, that, leaving right now would kind of break my promises. It would give false clarity to everything that I've tried to build from November to now. Okay, so yeah, who goes to Italy now is a very big question. Di Marzio says Gattuso is the number one candidate. I actually don't mind. I don't think he's a great manager, but as I said before, to manage the national team, you don't have to be a great manager. You just have to be pragmatic. You just have to create a group and make the players understand what it means to play for the national team. And I think Gattuso can do that perfectly. National team and international football is not about tactics. It has never been about tactics and will never be about tactics. It's about pragmatism. So if Gattuso comes in, good luck. And I heard Mourinho. There were rumors of Mourinho potentially getting the call from Gravina. It would be weird to see a manager who's not from the national team. Of course, it has happened in the past. Look at Brazil with Ancelotti. It would be weird to have an Italian manager who's not Italian, but it would also be epic for Jose Mourinho to be the Italy manager. But yeah, I think Gattuso will be the one at the end of the day. But I genuinely could not care less about that. It is what it is. Whoever they pick, they will pick. And at the end of the day, they were just using Ranieri to shield the fact and the vivid possibility that they could be playing in other World Cup playoff, which would be absolutely drastic. I watched 30 minutes of the game against Moldova yesterday, and I'm like, it's pointless. The second you higher the level, I mean, we struggled to beat a Moldovan team. The second you higher the level, this team gets absolutely dismantled. Unless, and 90% of the times, it gets absolutely dismantled. Then you've got that one game, like the one in Paris against France months ago, where they all turn up and play like it was 2006 Italy. And then you get your hypes up and say, we'll win the World Cup. But then the reality kicks in again. And the reality is that you'll beat Moldova. Even if you struggle, you'll end up beating them. I said this on Monday. But the second you higher the bar and play against a better team with potentially better individual players, you get absolutely embarrassed. And that's not something that you solve. That's not something, it's not a club. It's not a club. You don't just solve the problem by buying new players. What do? Those are the players. You don't have many Italian players around. It's an institutional problem. As I said many times, it's a cultural problem. The base of the problem is the schools that teach kids football. If they don't grow players because they focus on tactics too much instead of growing and making the players, the little kids, understand what playing football means, then this is the exact problem. You can put whoever you want there, but the players are those. There are 3 good players. In fact, there were 3 world-class players. Donnarumma's world-class, Tonali's world-class, Barella's world-class. But those are the only world-class players. The second you face a team which, like France, who's got more than 3 world-class players, you get destroyed, you get humiliated. And the problem is, I think Spalletti was clueless, and I think Spalletti's decisions didn't help, which is why I think he had to leave. But it's more than the manager. It's everything. I must say, however, it has been very brave from Gravina to sack Spalletti without knowing who to replace him with. Because I think Gravina was convinced that he was going to get Ranieri, but Ranieri's a man which doesn't break promises. So I think sacking Spalletti without proper replacement was not a good idea. But yeah, good luck to Gattuso if he comes in. Anyways, back to Roma. Couldn't care less about Italy. They've got so many problems that, we can't speak about the Italian national team in 20 minutes. Angelino's deal is delayed. Fabrizio Romano says that it's not a done deal. Fabrizio Romano has said that the player did not travel to Paris yesterday for medicals. It was false news. Now, the question here is, does Al Hilal keep on pushing and sign him, or do they change objective? Because remember, there was the little transfer session pre-FIFA World Cup, Club World Cup, for the clubs that play the World Cup. Now, that ends today, and the deal is not going to get done before that. So, my question here is, are they going to prioritize the Angelino deal even after the Club World Cup, or was it just an emergency signing for Inzaghi to have some players available during the tournament? I don't know. I think the issue with Saudi teams is that if they've got such unlimited money that realistically speaking they could go for a bigger aim than Angelino, I don't mind keeping Angelino at all. I wouldn't mind selling him for the amount of money that they asked for, but if the deal doesn't go through, I won't be biting my nails. I would love to keep him. But as I said yesterday, if keeping Angelino means sacrificing another big, then that's where I'm against it. Sources are saying that Villora and Roma are coming very close to a contract extension, to an agreement. That's something that came out of the news today, which I think is good, because Milan were pushing to Sansevillor. Of course, the deal was not close, but Milan selling Mignan meant that they need a new goalkeeper, and one of the top priorities was Svelor, but it ain't happening, and apparently a deal is very close between Roma and Svelor now. Yeah, look, I mean, if we end up keeping Angelino, I won't complain. But then if we end up keeping Angelino, I want to see a big statement from the board saying that we keep him and we keep the rest. The rest, like the untouchables. I don't want to see us go, let's keep Angelino, the deal didn't go through, so now we have to sell Kone. No, absolutely not. We need to sell players, and yes, realistically speaking, the players that we need to sell won't generate a lot of money. I fully comprehend this. I comprehend the possibility that we might need to sacrifice a player, but I want to see a statement going, we will make our way through our financial problems, we won't sell anyone. Unlikely, but hopefully that's the case. There were players, I can name you 3 players that need to go in my opinion. Angelino, Cilic, Pellegrini, and I will put Paredes in the mix. I will, because Paredes is the last that will fit Gasperini's system. The last. And also he is the last that will withstand the rhythm and intensity of Gasperini's training sessions. And I know as a matter of fact that Gasperini doesn't want Paredes. I would have kept Paredes. I think Paredes is world class. I've said it multiple times. I've always defended him, even during the Boca Junior rumors on Instagram. If you've been following me on Instagram, you know that I've defended the man. But selling Paredes wouldn't guarantee you a lot of money, I do agree, but it would guarantee you a massive wage cut because he's probably one of the top earners. So 3 players that I would put on the transfer list right now, or without, of course, not including the money that we got from Lefebvre, the money that Inter are going to spend for Zaleski permanent, the money that we got from Dal, not counting that money, I think Cilic, Pellegrini and Paredes, together if you sell them, will probably give you 25 million, 3 combined, maybe 30 million. But I don't think if you sell the 3 combined, you will get more than 30 million. Yeah. There are other players. Then there are players that I would put on the depends. And the player that I put on the 2 players that I put on the depends are... I just realized that was milk. The 2 players that I would put on the depend, when I say depend, it means who we're selling them to, how much we're selling them for, and if we can get a better replacement. The 2 of them are Dovbyk and Baldanzi. I'll surprise you. I'll put Baldanzi on the depends. Because, because he doesn't get much game time. But it's also not true that Baldanzi has arrived yesterday. It's almost a year, a full season that we've had Baldanzi, and he's had his great moments. But I can't remember many goals and assists, and ultimately for his position, that's what you ask for. So I'm not saying sell them immediately, no, I wouldn't, I keep them. But if I can get a better replacement, and if I can kind of make the money or even the profit that we spent for them, I would sit down. And I'm the first one to say that Dovbyk needs another season to fully build an opinion around him. Absolutely. But if I get a 35 million offer for Dovbyk, which is very unlikely, I would sell him and I'll get a better replacement. Same for Baldanzi. If I get like 25 million for Baldanzi, I sell him and get a better replacement. Yes, I do. So not sell them, but under specific circumstances, I would sit down and negotiate with with them. Sorry. I was just checking how old Baldanzi is. Now, Baldanzi, to be fair, I thought Baldanzi was a bit older. Baldanzi is still 22. 22 years is not, of course, young, but it's still very young. Yeah, I would give Baldanzi another season, but he hasn't really done much. And I think his shooting is terrible. The issue with Baldanzi is that he's too small, he gets bullied too much, and his shooting is absolutely terrible. So I wouldn't sell them, I keep them, but I would sit down if specific circumstances come through. Vieni il 22 per il compleanno della Roma. E se sto a Roma, certo. Baldanzi needs to be sold or loaned, can't finish and doesn't provide assists. Baldanzi had a lackluster performance last season, but I feel like he's just the type of player Gasp expands and develops. Dovbyk, not so much, says Giovanni. Did anyone else hear that Chiesa is very close to Milan, says Dominic. I haven't, is he? Di Marco and Bastoni are world class as well. Yeah, Di Marco and Bastoni are world class, I agree. I forgot about them. But Di Marco's very inconsistent. Like Donnarumma, Tonali and Barella the reason they're world class is because every time they play, of course, they've got their ups and downs and they play their better games and worse games. But generally speaking, they are players which guarantee you 32 games out of 38 played very well. So that's what I define world class. Di Marco doesn't. Di Marco has his games where he looks like prime Roberto Carlos, and other games that he's worse than Korsdorp. Look at that Champions League final. So they are, especially Bastoni. Bastoni is world class, I agree. Di Marco is, but he's very inconsistent. And I think if you want to be a world class player, the number one element is consistency. Can you do it week in and week out? Barella, Tonali, Donnarumma and Bastoni do. And they do it week in and week out. Di Marco doesn't. Mourinho for national coach. It would be sick. It would be sick. Gladys saying, have been updating my feed every 10 minutes to see updates. Thank God he didn't take the Italy job. The matter of a heart attack. The Italian national team and everything going over there is a straight disaster. I'm lagging a bit. I'm sorry, guys, but I'm done. Don't worry. Scamacca or Dovbyk? As a first striker, Dovbyk. Scamacca is coming from a season that he hasn't touched the ball because he's coming from like a muscle tear and an ACL injury. Scamacca is a good option, but as a second striker, definitely not as first. Definitely not as first. Selling Dovbyk to get Scamacca as your first striker is a very big risk because he's played 0 games this season. He's coming from last season where he scored 19 goals, amazing under Gasperini. But, you know, it's too risky to give everything for somebody who played 0 games this season. He played like 1 game and then got injured again. Baldanzi has a great engine and can run a lot dynamic and creative. He's exactly the player Gasp will want, says Connor. He needs to relax on the pitch. If Claudio couldn't bring tranquility to Baldanzi, then Gasp will give the lad a heart attack. Indeed. Right, guys, I will catch you tomorrow. Hit the like button. If we can get 100 likes on this video, it would be great. Share the link of this video and of the channel with your families and friends. Leave a like down below. It takes 2 seconds and it will support the channel and video a lot. I'll catch you tomorrow. Yeah, smash a like, subscribe, and I'll catch you soon. Simo out.